Adhere Ports inks a 50-year concession deal with Karachi Port Trust, and wealthy nations pledge $100 billion for climate finance. You're watching the Daily Brief with Forbes. I'm Ramia Faraj. Adhere Ports Group has signed a 50-year concession agreement with Karachi Port Trust to form a UAE-based joint venture to develop and manage a new container terminal. The JV, formed between Adhere Ports and UAE-based Kahil Terminals, will invest $200 million to develop and expand the Karachi Gateway Terminal at the Karachi Port. Over the next decade, the JV will enhance the terminal capacity, including deepening berths, extending quay walls, and increasing the container storage area. Global equity funds suffered substantial outflows during the 7 days to June 21st. The losses came amid concerns over borrowing costs staying higher for longer as the European Central Bank raised interest rates and the Federal Reserve signaled more hikes. Investors withdrew $15.12 billion from global equity funds, which had seen net inflows of $16.04 billion a week earlier. Meanwhile, global bond funds extended their inflows streak to a 14th straight week, with about $4.07 billion coming in. Eurozone economic activity worsened in June to a 5-month low, hit hard by a fall in industrial production. S&P's Purchasing Managers Index for the Eurozone fell to 50.3 in June from 52.8 in May. A figure above 50 indicates growth. S&P says the data demonstrates renewed weakness in the economy after the brief growth revival recorded in the spring. The Eurozone entered a technical recession at the start of the year, and inflation remains well above the ECB's target of 2%. Wealthy nations finalized a $100 billion climate finance pledge to developing countries at the new Global Financial Pact Summit in Paris. They also created a fund for biodiversity and the protection of forests. 40 leaders, including 24 from Africa, China's Prime Minister, and Brazil's President, gathered to give impetus to a new global finance agenda. The summit's objective was to boost crisis financing for low-income states and ease their debt burdens, reform post-war financial systems, and free up funds to tackle climate change. At the summit, Chinese Premier Li Qiang urged Europe to rise above differences and find creative solutions. Li said China will unequivocally reject trade protectionism and all forms of decoupling and severing of supply chains. He added that China would continue to take practical steps to support its fellow developing countries. And he said China is ready to be engaged in debt relief efforts, keeping with the principle of fair burden sharing. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will meet U.S. and Indian business leaders in Washington today on the final day of his state visit. Modi will address the CEOs of top American companies, including FedEx, MasterCard, and Adobe, and representatives of Indian companies. His visit has been marked by pledges of deeper U.S.-India cooperation in areas including space, AI, and quantum computing. President Biden declared after 2.5 hours of talks that their country's economic relationship was booming. India-U.S. trade has more than doubled over the past decade. Boeing has announced a $100 million investment in infrastructure and programs to train pilots in India. It comes on the heels of Air India signing firm orders of over 200 jets early this week from Boeing. These include 20 787 Dreamliners, 10 777Xs, and 190 737 MAX aircraft. The development is the latest in a flurry of deals signed by U.S. and Indian companies on the sidelines of Modi's visit. And that brings us to today's Forbes Real-Time Billionaires ranking, which tracks the daily ups and downs of the world's wealthiest people. Our biggest loser today is Gautam Adani. He's down $2.9 billion with net wealth of $49.6 billion. Our second biggest loser is his counterpart Mukesh Ambani, down $1.7 billion with net wealth of $90.1 billion. And our third place loser is bottled water mogul Zhong Shanshan. He's down $1.5 billion with net wealth of $61.9 billion. Check out our website and our social media for all of the latest Billionaires news. I'm Ramia Faraj. This is the Daily Brief. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.